Whose idea was it to do this book?
For a long time, I have really had an affinity for being out there in nature and photographing the land. And since the goddess theme is really one of exploring the feminine in nature, I've been working on this goddess book ever since I first picked up a camera. I just didn't know it. So when the publisher came to us and said, we'd really love to produce a book on the goddess in the United States and in Canada, it was more a matter of us delving back into thousands of images that I had already done to find those images that best expressed particular themes. And wherever we could, we went to that country or that geographical area to find those images that expressed the ambiance of the goddess stories from days gone by.
The title of the book is Visions of the Goddess, not of goddesses. Is there a unity in what you learned and became text and what you saw and became picture?
Well, she's Mother Earth, the goddess. She manifests herself in many forms, under many different names, in many different cultures. That's why she's a singular. And I think we all grow up with that kind of cliche, the Earth Mother, or Mother Earth, you know, let's go out, it's springtime, let's go and plant some seeds in Mother Earth, you know. But I think that the more we got into researching and realizing, wow, does she ever manifest herself in a lot of ways? Look at how these people in northern Saskatchewan relate to the land in terms of this feminine deity. In that particular one, I actually flew over the William River, and I'm not a good flyer. I do get airsick, and so the plane is banking very hard, and I've got the window open, and I've got my telephoto lens on, and I'm doing my utmost to try to keep my stomach in control while I'm photographing really what's the most exotic abstracts from the air I've ever encountered in my life. And that's because the William River was carrying thousands of tons of sand along with it as it flowed through the Athabasca sand dunes. And we were looking down into these abstract sand patterns underneath the water. But here, emerging right before my eyes, was this enormous kilometer-long woman birthing something that looks like a man in her womb. And it's situations like that that were just huge and wonderful discoveries for Sherrill and me, because she would research the stories. I'd be pulling these hundreds and thousands of slides that had the feeling of the feminine in them, and then suddenly, eureka! She'd come up with the Copper Woman story, and I'd say, look at Copper Woman here, and we'd rejoice. We have another marriage. We have another one. That's the way the book emerged.
That one is such a striking picture. I mean, when I first looked at it, I was doing a quick glance through the book, and I went, oh yeah, that's a woman's torso. Just a second, and I turned back,
Yeah.
and it wasn't. And there's so many photographs like that in the book.
And there's hardly an image in that book that I shot for the book, which really is an interesting fact, because naturally for years I have been seeing spirit in the landscape, and without even consciously thinking about it, I'm pointing my camera and focusing in a way that's bringing out either the feeling or the faces or the torsos, but things that feel like feminine energy. And at the same time as I'm doing that, I'm also accessing, without consciously knowing it, the feminine side, that I am getting into my own intuition. I'm getting into what feels right. I'm going with the flow, to use a cliche, rather than trying intellectually to think about camera, f-stop, shutter speeds, purpose, theme. None of that enters my mind. I've done so many images now, 385,000 to be exact, that I no longer think in terms of camera technology, that is so automatic that my body does that for me, and it leaves me free to flow with the imagination that's happening when I'm looking through the viewfinder.
And it's that imagination or intuition that we call the feminine. And I think this is an important distinction to make, in that when we're talking about feminine, we don't mean female here. That we're talking about an expressiveness and energy that we all carry, both men and women carry these different ways of expressing themselves or experiencing themselves or showing themselves to the world. And we just happen to, in our culture, happen to call this the feminine. So it belongs to both men and women.
The book is Visions of the Goddess, the photographs of Courtney Milne with text by Sherrill Miller, and Visions of the Goddess, published by Penguin.